Hello and welcome. I'm Deborah Pascali Bonaro of Orgasmic Birth, helping you to positively prepare for birth. And I am super excited today because if you've been following us, you know that we've had such an honor of featuring Kaitlin McGreyes and her birth stories. Oh my goodness, Kaitlin, I have to say that when you first sent me your stories, they just touched my heart, made me cry. And I really can see the transformation. And I know all of you today are going to be so excited because Kaitlin created Be Her Village as a response to something that all mothers are feeling, a need for support. And following a traumatic cesarean and a really transformative VBAC, and you're going to have to read, and Kaitlin will tell you about her third birth too. She saw a need to create a place where parents can build their own custom, intimate communities, their village. Be Her Village is a place where new parents can feel seen and heard and can build a registry for services and support rather than just stuff. So Kaitlin, you're also a doula. You trained with Dona International. I know you're part of the Long Island Doula Association, which is really near and dear to my heart too, and so much more. So welcome. I'm so honored you're joining me today.
It is such an honor to be here with you, Deborah. You are just incredible, the contributions and the work that you have made. I am walking in your footsteps. So thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it on International Women's Day. It feels so appropriate.
Isn't it? It's so great. And you already told me, but you have to tell people, I love your earrings. So if they're not like really looking.
Yes, I'm wearing my female reproductive 3D printout earrings that I got at ACNM's annual meeting in DC, which I think was their last in-person meeting, possibly before COVID hit. So I wear these, on a day, whether I'm either needing inspiration or I'm feeling inspired. And today is the latter for sure, because this is very exciting to be here with you and with everybody who's joining us.
Well, before we get into how, and I know you're going to give a lot of tips for how people can actually create their team for a pleasurable birth. Ooh, but I really want to help people understand your journey because I know that so much of your passion that brought you here is your own experience, and you just had so many lessons. So can you just give us and I know it's a lot, and they can go to the blog and read more.
And pages and pages. Right?
Oh. And you are like a prolific writer. Oh my goodness, like just so well written. For those that are here right now, I'm going to drop the links in case you haven't seen the stories into the chat. But can you give us kind of a summary? Start us off in your first pregnancy, how you were feeling and kind of where your mindset was about preparing for birth then.
Absolutely. So I started out my first pregnancy with a desire for a quote unquote natural birth. I wanted a birth center birth. I trusted my body. That's one thing that didn't change all throughout my births. I always trusted my body. But I think that I had this sense of invincibility. I was 27 years old. I was fiercely independent. I thought I was strong. I thought if I could just tell people no, they'd stay away from me and that would be the end of it. And so in my first birth preparation, I didn't really build my team. I didn't line up the support I needed. I trusted that I would have everything I needed in order to have the birth I wanted. And that didn't end up being true, which is why we're sitting here today, which is something I'm really grateful for. It was a really difficult birth. The way I try to tell people is I had a very traumatic first birth, but nothing interesting happened. I just got standard American maternity care. And that is pretty traumatizing to most people. And so I look at that birth as a chance for growth, a chance for expansion, a chance to feel fragile. I mean, I really suddenly felt vulnerable in a way I maybe never had before or never allowed myself to be. And the experience that I had spurred me into birth work. And, every experience you have informs the next one. But that day and what I went through absolutely is in my mind each time I'm working with women, each time I'm creating things to help the next woman get support. So it was really powerful for me.
Yeah. And it's great to see that, right? That journey from healing yourself to really helping others heal and most important, not even have to heal, right? To be able to have that positive, pleasurable birth. But take us now, fast forward, you were preparing for baby number 2. Now, coming out of that experience of your first birth, what did you do different? What changed?
So, I mean, you can read about it in the stories, but what did I do different? Literally everything. It was like opposite day. I chose the opposite kind of care provider. I chose the opposite setting. I hired a doula. I hadn't hired a doula. I did research. I hadn't done research. So quite literally, I did the opposite. But really, what I did was I became an active participant in my care. And so what that meant for me was rather than saying, oh, somebody will take care of me or this will be okay, I realized I need to make the choices that are right for me. And I need to figure out, number one, what are my choices? Number two, what is the information that supports those choices? And number three, what is the choice I'm going to make and how am I going to make it? Like literally, how am I going to say out loud with my choices? And it was small things that looked like having a conversation with my doctor about the type of monitoring I would have, or deciding when I was going to go to the hospital along with my team. And it was small things like that that added up to me finding my power. And I'm always really careful to say, I had a C-section for my first birth and I had a VBAC for my second. And right after the baby came out, I shouted, I just had a baby out of my vagina. I was so excited.
I love that.
It's on video. So I did, the fact that I had a baby vaginally was certainly triumphant, but I got my power back before I even stepped into the hospital. My power was taken back during the process of becoming aware and of becoming someone who does research and makes choices and builds out my support team and kind of just takes my own destiny into my hands. It wouldn't have mattered how the baby came out. The fact of the matter was it was just different because I was different in that birth and the way I prepared for it mostly.
Yeah. And so beautifully said. And I love how, like, you can even feel right now, both the oxytocin and the power that you felt in that is palpable, So, wow. And congrats, because what an important message you're giving to everyone, right? To really take that birth back. So now let's go fast forward. Cause then even in reading your stories, I was like, okay, so now you had the power, like you had this transformative birth and birth 3.
And birth 3, man, I'm still recovering from birth 3. She's going to be 5 in 2 weeks. I'm still recovering from So birth 3 was, I don't know, in so many ways, it was a return back to my first birth, because my first birth, I was trying to give birth at an out-of-hospital birth center, and there was only one in New York State, maybe 2 at the time. And so this time I chose to give birth at home, which for me was a huge transformation. There might be people on here right now like, well, of course you give birth at home. That's where you give birth, but for me, I actually was one of the people that would be like, how can people give birth at home? Like, we have modern medicine. How could you do that? And it's like, it's so silly to think about that now because of everything I went through and everything I learned. But again, every single time I was pregnant, every time I gave birth, there was an opportunity for growth, and I found it, and I used it, to transform myself. And I feel unrecognizable from the person I was before my second and before my first birth. So essentially, I did research both internally. This research wasn't such a book heavy one. It was like a little bit of a gut check, because I spent 21 hours in labor for my second birth. And I was in the hospital for one of those hours, and going to the hospital was the most stressful part for me. So it was kind of like, maybe what does it look like if I stay home and people come to me and, I craft this birth that, feels right for me in my space. And so I ended up having a lightning fast. Well, lightning fast for me, birth, it was 6 hours, start to finish. And I think the thing that really stuck with me from that birth was just how comfortable it was. Everything was done. Literally, my daughter was born right there in the room.
I love that.
Where my daughter was born. I have her stand on the spot like for her birthday here. It's just, there was something so cozy and comfortable and normal about it. It was like, you just wake up, you eat breakfast, you labor a little bit, you jump in a tub and you have a baby by lunchtime. And it was really a beautiful full transformation into not just learning about the options and building the support team and becoming an active participant, but also in trusting myself that I know what's best for me and that I can make decisions even when they go against the grain and they go against maybe what everybody else is doing.
So important. And people were asking websites, VBAC Facts, right? VBAC.com. And I added an ICANN, but I forget their website.
Might be ican.org. I'm not sure. But if you look, it's International Cesarean Awareness Network, and they do great work. They have chapters that meet across the country. So there's a lot of great work being done. And it's really unfortunate because VBAC is so safe. It's the reasons why we fear it have nothing to do with how dangerous it actually is or isn't. It really has to do with insurance laws and liability and malpractice and things that are completely separate and far away from birthing women and their actual experience.
So people are saying, what's your website? Yes. How can they reach you?
So my website is behervillage.com. I put it in the chats, but I can put it in again.
Okay.
Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. This is why I do this, is to help the next person, because what I went through, and both with my birth, but also in the postpartum, we're the only culture in this country that doesn't have a built-in ritual for women and for mothers, right? It's like almost every culture has, a lying in period and a time where the normal duties of the mother are lifted from her so that she can restore. We have restorative cultural, rituals. And in the United States, we have zero support. There's no paid maternity leave. There's no healthcare workers visiting us. And we're going to change that. And we're going to change it first through gift registry, right? Because we can help each other. We can send a gift to the next mother. But it's something we can all do to change birth and motherhood for the better.
And can I ask this? And I don't know, but do you have that, like you said, a gift for the next mother? Is there a way for people whose families may not have the finances? Are there any scholarships, or especially in this time where we're looking at equity and the disparities for people that identify as BIPOC?
Yes. So right now we don't have something within Be Her Village for that. But what we do, because we want to make sure we're reaching every single person and addressing these inequities, it's really, really important to us. So we do have BIPOC things to get businesses that are run by people that identify as BIPOC. But one of the things that we do is that with each gift that's funded on Be Her Village, we donate a portion of that gift to a local charity that works on the ground with mothers in need. So in Long Island, that is Maternal Spotlight, and we are funding a BIPOC scholarship for fourth trimester support circles through the Nesting Place. And in Detroit, we're going to be working with an organization on the ground that's working in Detroit with under-resourced mothers. We're going to be actually driving them back and forth to the clinic through a Lyft partnership. So we're making sure that with each gift that's funded, not just the person who's registered, but also somebody in their local community is getting impacted as well, because every single person needs the support no matter what their background is.
Fantastic. Wow. You've thought of everything. I knew you had. So I just had to ask. And the last question before we end is, we have a question from a doula. How do people get involved? How do people register with you? We talked about if you're, pregnant, but what about if you wanted to be a provider and be listed?
Absolutely. So you can email me and I would be happy to talk to you about it. But you can also go to behervillage.com. And if you scroll down to the bottom, we have a little tab that says business partners. There's also a bunch of little tabs there with our FAQ and my story and a few other things. But you can click on the business partners tab and there's information there about how to get your services listed.
Thank you so much, Kaitlin.
It's my pleasure. This is amazing.
You're sharing. Oh my goodness, you're amazing to really hear the power in your birth stories, the wisdom, the lessons learned, and how you're taking all of that and birthing it forward and rebuilding the villages that we all are lacking. This is change that's just going to go on and ripple and ripple and ripple. And I Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom today. And thank you for everyone who joined us. We'd love to hear more from you. If you're watching this recording, please leave your comments below. We really do value your input, your thoughts. And I wish everyone a pleasurable day. If you're pregnant, those that are with us, I wish you a pleasurable birth. And those that are in that postpartum, I hope you're listening carefully, right? And that all of you create that village. So both your pregnancy, your birth, and your postpartum is full of love, connection, and joy. Ring the bell and subscribe for more orgasmic birth content so you can positively prepare for birth and parenting. And follow us on Instagram at Orgasmic Birth. And if you'd like some extra surprises, go to orgasmicbirth.com.